How many snaps did they run in the 14 personnel?
That's only for us.
100% of the snaps.
What's going on, everybody? Marco here from 14P, and I am bringing you the Week 5 streamers. So I've got a lot of guys I'm going to cover, and then some guys that I want to talk about and some defense I want to talk about at the end very quickly. So let's jump right into it, and I'm going to start with quarterbacks, and the first quarterback on my list is Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is playing the Dallas Cowboys, and he's been really good for fantasy football so far. He's right there with Jalen Hurts. I tweeted out this week, if you like Jalen Hurts for fantasy, you should like Daniel Jones for fantasy. He has cut down on turnovers, which has been a major thing for him. But the other thing is Daniel Jones has provided a really nice rushing floor. Right now, he's averaging just under 50 yards, 49.5 yards per game rushing. Obviously, it was inflated by the 195-yard rushing game. But even if you take that out, he's averaging 31 yards rushing per game. And I think that's a really nice floor for a guy who's cut down on turnovers. He's starting to get some O-line guys back. He's starting to get some offensive pieces back. Sure, Shepard is beat up right now, and we don't know fully if he's going to play in Week 5. But even if he isn't, I think this is a defense that can be had. They're in the bottom. I think they're sixth in the league or sixth worst in the league against quarterbacks. And, even with the Dallas defense that's been stepping up, not that this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think Daniel Jones, with his rushing ability and with the weapons that they do have, is going to be able to put together a nice week for you in fantasy. So Daniel Jones is right at the top of my list when it comes to quarterback streamers for this week. Another guy who has been killing it, but last week he struggled a little bit against Cleveland, is Kirk Cousins. Now, Kirk Cousins gets the Detroit Lions, who are just a mess as a team. Offensively, they've got a few nice pieces, but it's just ugly. They might be one of the worst teams in the NFL, even worse than Houston at some point, maybe. Houston obviously has got Davis Mills, but let's not talk too much about them. But Detroit Lions as a defense are bad. Kirk Cousins as a quarterback is fairly decent, and Dalvin Cook is beat up, which means that they're going to have to lean on their quarterback a little bit more in this one. He hasn't shown us any reason why you shouldn't trust him yet against defenses like this that are in the bottom half or, bottom third of the league in passing defense. So I like Kirk Cousins this week. I think he could be a nice streamer for you in Week 5. All right, the next guy up is Cole Beasley. While I am not a Cole Beasley fan, it's hard to argue with what his usage has been so far in this season. Right now, he's averaging 8 targets a game. Sure, last week he only saw 2 targets, but in a game against Kansas City in PPR leagues, they're going to be throwing the ball. They're going to have to be keeping up in this game. It's the highest over-under on the week. I think it's set at like 56.5 points. And so I think Cole Beasley in PPR leagues is a nice play. I'm sure he's going to see 8 to 10 targets in this one. And I should stress, if you're not in a PPR league or even if you're in a half PPR league, he's less attractive. Half PPR, I'm probably still throwing him out there as maybe a flex too. But in non-PPR leagues, it's going to be hard to trust Cole Beasley because he's not a guy who's going to get into the end zone necessarily for the Bills. I'm going to talk about the guy who I think will be getting into the end zone for these Bills a little bit later. All right, we've got a couple more here. My next guy on the list is wide receiver LaViska Shenault. Obviously, with the injury to DJ Chark last week, we saw LaViska get a little bit of a different role. Not super different, but he saw a slight uptick. I think it was like a 1.5 to 2 yard depth of target increase for him, which is good. And coaches came out today saying they're going to get him more involved in the offense. He is going to be a bigger piece of what they do. And if they get him involved a little bit more downfield, this is the team to do it against. The Tennessee Titans defense is absolutely atrocious. They're second worst in the league against wide receivers. They've let up, over the last 4 weeks only, they've let up 944 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns. 8 in 4 weeks. Sure, Marvin Jones is the big guy to take away a lot of the touchdown opportunities here in this offense. I think Shenault finds the end zone this week for the first time this season, and he's going to be a great streamer this week. And maybe going forward, as long as we are seeing that increase in depth of target for LaViska Shenault. So, like I said, Week 5 especially, get Shenault out there. All right, the next guy on my list is the guy who I think is going to be seeing a lot of the touchdown work for the Buffalo Bills in the Kansas City Chiefs game, Dawson Knox. he is the tight end breaking out this year. He truly is. He was in a little bit of a timeshare early, but in the last 3 weeks, he's seen 78% snaps or more. He's been in the 80s for 2 of those weeks, and he's caught touchdowns in He's caught touchdowns in each of the last 3 weeks, and he's caught at least 4 passes in each of the last 4 weeks. He's a guy who in PPR leagues is giving you decent value, and as long as he continues to see the red zone work, which I think he will, he's going to be the breakout tight end this year. I think he's going to win a lot of people some fantasy championships. Josh Allen is looking to him in the red zone. They don't have a ton of other red zone opportunity guys. Cole Beasley, like I said, he's not really the red zone guy. Stephon Diggs, he's more of the big play guy who gets into the red zone. He's not, or into the end zone. He's not a red zone guy necessarily. And their running backs have been really hit or miss. And so I really like Josh Allen and Dawson Knox this week. And I think that Dawson Knox finds another week to get into the end zone in week 5. All right, guys, there's a couple things I want to mention. Kadarius Toney in PPR leagues only. And if Sterling Shepard does not play, I think he is a fine flex to play this week. He's not a guy I really want to trust. I don't really love his talent as an NFL player. I think he's a fine player. I don't think he's special. But when opportunity comes, you got to take advantage of that. Like I said, PPR only. And if Sterling Shepard doesn't play only, then go ahead and start Kadarius Toney in your flex or flex 2 spot. He could be a nice play. Obviously, John Ross got some opportunity, but Kadarius Toney was the guy who I think looked a little bit better. And he's the guy who I think has more upside than even a John Ross. So go ahead and throw him out there if those 2 things are happening. PPR and Sterling Shepard doesn't play. And then the last 2 things I'll talk about is they're not really a secret anymore because they made the big splashy move recently or yesterday of signing Stephon Gilmore. But Stephon Gilmore isn't going to be a Carolina Panther active player for a couple more weeks at least. So I think the Panthers are continuing to be a streamer defense. I said this offseason, they are going to be the defense that people are like, whoa, where did they come from? They are going to be the defense that people want. And so far, that has been exactly what they've been. So I like them a lot this week. They could be a nice play. And with the addition of Stephon Gilmore, they're not a streamer defense anymore. They're one of the best defenses that you can have. So go ahead. If they're available still, go scoop them up. You're not really trading for defenses. But if you've got a defense that, is middle of the road, but has a nice name, like even the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, they've been a little bit hit or miss, like they haven't been that great. So if you got someone who's not paying a ton of attention and they like the name Pittsburgh Steelers defense, go ahead and go get the Panthers defense because I think they're going to be a better play for most of the rest of this year. The last defense I'm going to say is a streamer this week because they've been a little bit better, and it might seem counterintuitive because I said start Daniel Jones, but I think the Dallas Cowboys defense could be a decent play this week. Even if Daniel Jones has a great game against the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys defense has been really great at 1, getting to the quarterback, and 2, getting at least 1 turnover every game. And so I think that they could get a fumble recovery. They could, intercept Daniel Jones this week. Trayvon Diggs, if he's healthy, has been a revelation for this defense and for the secondary. So I like him quite a bit. So the Dallas defense, I think this week, and this week probably only, is a viable streamer. They might not look great on paper, but I think they could get a turnover in this one, and they could get to the quarterback 1 or 2 times as well. So go ahead and look at those 2 defenses for streamers. If you've got any other streamer questions, if you've got trade questions, anything, you can drop them below. I'll answer as many as I can, or Justin will as well. Or you can find me on Twitter at Marco_14P or our 14 personnel account at 14P_fantasy. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to Streamers of the Week. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.